Okay, this is video 2 of the term paper. So this is some of the last information you're going to receive regarding the term paper through video, that is. This is linked to your assignment. This is the way I grade. So you need to look over this. This will be the rubric, and it's graded holistically because at this point I'm not going to be giving you essay error codes or anything like that because it's too late in the semester. So when I read over your final essay, I will highlight issues and then I will make a judgment depending on how you've met these criteria. So please look through these, make sure that you are meeting all of them, and then your grade will be based on your completion of these criteria. Okay, so if you've met all of them, you'll get 100. If you've met most of them, you'll receive a 90, and so forth and so on. Please read over these criteria. I wanted to walk one more time through a few issues on the sample term paper just to point out some stuff as it compares to the information I've already given you on some mistakes I'm seeing. So remember formatting. Make sure that you have done your page numbers correctly. I'll try to go find, setting up essay in Word one more time and share it with you in the links. Make sure you've set it up properly. Make sure you've set this information up properly. And then remember the requirements of this assignment. You have a title that is centered. You have no extra spaces between this line and this line. It's all double spaced. And then you underline and on the left margin put introduction, literature review, interviews, and conclusion. Okay, so we'll look at that later. That's a subheading. These are subheadings, and then subheadings are centered, and you determine how you want to capitalize this. This sample paper has it in just normal sentence capitalization, so you determine how you want to do that. I want to look at a few of these highlighted portions just to point out. So your introduction paragraph should set up the whole conversation. What have you learned? Why are you talking about this? You set up in context why you're discussing what you're discussing. Everybody should be resilience, but what about resilience? And then it really should end. I mean, we have not focused too hard on a thesis statement for this essay, but it really should end in some sort of thesis statement that sets up just the whole meaning and the whole purpose of this paper. So your sample is growth mindset, not resilience. That's on purpose. But this sentence, it is through growth mindset that an individual can actively influence the ways in which he or she learns, produces results, and ultimately knows success. So we can expect through the rest of this paper that we will understand and see why this makes sense, okay? All right, and so then we get into literature review. And as I've noted, yes, you do have what is an introduction paragraph. It is just getting you into it. It's hard to just jump right in. So you need to get into the fact that you're going to discuss literature here. This sentence really, adds to that. Since Dweck's focused work began, other researchers have joined her in an effort to determine what makes certain people rise from setbacks while others stall and never rise to their potentials. That indicates, okay, we're going to look at not only Dweck, but other work, okay? The other thing that I want you to note here is that there's some extra space here. Well, that's because what is growth mindset was going to appear by itself, and that's not okay. Had to enter it to the next page. So make sure that you are doing that. Always take your subheading or subheading to the next page. Let's look at how to incorporate sources. So have some opening stuff here that starts with Dweck. Then there's a new source here. According to Clara Boyette, these individuals are too focused on talent, and because they fear failure, they will often avoid challenges because they are seen as an affront to their talent. So this is quote weaving, not word for word from Clara Boyette, just what is in quotation marks. And then because the source has page numbers, we have just included the page numbers here. The source here. We're always looking for author first. If there is no author, then the next step is to do the article title, but always author first. Then look at this next line. They are also more likely to experience anxiety. This is a paraphrase. This is not directly quoted, but guess what? It comes from this information on this page, so you still need to cite it. All right. let's look at this. According to Terrell Strayhorn, agency is the belief that one can act or do something to achieve desired goals. Anytime we are changing information in the direct quote, we have to put brackets around it. And so all this is showing is that in the original source, it was capitalized, and it doesn't need to be capitalized in this particular sentence because we are looking at regular sentence structure. And this is an introductory clause. And then beyond an introductory clause, we just have lowercase. Also, of course, we have the page number here. Now, when you quote a quote is what I call it. When you quote something that has been quoted in your source, there is a way to do that. Okay, so study your MLA textbook section 4A. Go find that rule. This self-efficacy is one's beliefs about one's capabilities to produce designated levels of performance. I'm not sure who originally said it, but if I go back to Fletcher and others, then I can go trace back the original reference. So make sure that you do this properly. Okay. And then let's look at the fact that we do not double cite or anything. So according to Cheska Robinson, teachers can implement an intentional study of the brain and its amazing abilities in the classroom. Robinson explains students become more interested in learning when they find out they can get smarter by rewiring their brains through study and practice. So we don't repeat Robinson here. We just do the page number. We've already given her credit. And then we want to make this all connect. So this is wrapping up the literature review. But here's a little line here. Now it is up to educators and other leaders to determine strategies that promote a growth mindset culture and to implement these in the school systems and workplaces. Productivity and overall mental well-being will increase, and the world as a whole will benefit from this paradigm shift. This is summing up the literature, but it mentions educators. And so that is a nice segue to interviewing some educators. Notice that there are no list of questions in the interview section, and there's no first-person point of view. Just jump right to it. Interviewees include these educators, Mr. Washington, so forth and so on. So you do not have to use first-person point of view. All right, one more thing here. And then you just need to wrap up, how all the interviews connect, okay? Now, one thing that I did not stress in the previous video or document is the works cited page. Works cited should be in ABC order. Many of the source material, you've been given the citation. You know where to find it, like if you use ProQuest or whatever. But also, Writer's Reference shows you how to do any citation in MLA that you need. So look at the instructions and the models that are provided for you. Also, your interviews should be just like this in this format, and they should be incorporated into the literature as well. They are all sources, okay? All of these are the sources that you've used and cited. I'll remind you that you should have at least 6 literature sources and then 3 interview sources. So you should have 9 sources total. Okay, I hope all of this information helps you to kind of just get ready to finish out this semester strong and to do your paper really well. I will be contacting you in a few days about perhaps submitting your paper to the student journal if you're interested in that. So do the best you can, okay? And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.